Welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward Podcast. Today we're joined by Darren Skinner. Darren works at Easy Fiber. He's in charge of talent acquisitions. Darren, we're so glad to have you today. Can you let our listeners know a little more about you and about what you do at your current position?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be featured on the Flex Forward podcast. My name is Darren Skinner. I am a talent acquisition business partner at Easy Fiber, which is a fiber optic telecommunications service provider in the Houston, Texas area, also in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico, as well as in Kent, Washington. And we're looking at actually a fourth market coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's a lot of really positive growth that's happening at Easy Fiber. I, as the talent acquisition business partner, directly supporting direct sales and field operations technicians, assist in kind of building out exactly what we're doing and laying the baseline for this business. Obviously, the residential direct sales roles are individuals who connect with people in their homes, telling them about the service, obviously signing them up, going through the process in that fashion. And our field ops are actually laying that fiber optic network for us, at certain points, hundreds of miles per week. So we're really in a huge growth phase, and it's a very exciting time to be a part of the company.
Great. Now, how did you get started with this, with your current position?
Yeah, great question. So I've actually been in talent acquisition for about 10 years at this point, and a lot of my career was spent, with the early part of it at least, was spent in DC, supporting a lot of government agencies, bigger government contractors, defense contractors, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, BAE, Booz Allen Hamilton, Northrop Grumman, et cetera, et cetera. And when I met my wife, we moved to Houston, and it's a very different industry here in Houston, right? Tech industry is not as big as it is here. So really had to try to fade into maybe oil and gas or energy, and really started to look at these different industries. And telecom was also one that was really growing in the area. So I looked at companies that were hiring and kind of figuring out how I might fit in certain organizations. And as I was looking, Easy Fiber had an opening specifically in my department. So I started to do some research, learned a little bit about the company, which is always big for me in talent acquisition. You got to do your research to understand the position and the company culture to make sure that it's something that you believe in. Once that happened, I got an interview. We crushed it. And that's been about 9 months ago at this point.
Oh, awesome. So I would imagine there's quite a bit of competition in what you do into talent acquisition space. What is something that sets you apart from other people who may be doing the same thing?
Yeah, man. Wow. That's another really great question. So I think it's probably my background. I started my career in sales right out of college, and this was 2010, where the job market was just as bad as it is now. So nothing was hiring in marketing. I had to kind of make it work, and I had multiple jobs. I was actually working as a door-to-door salesman myself with a company called Power Home Remodeling Group. I was also working at a company, kind of a small marketing firm called Monumental Movements, which was selling as seen on TV products from random card tables and Targets and Walmarts in the area. And then I was also delivering papers overnight. So it was really that resilience, that tenacity, that perseverance, overturning objections, never quitting. That was solidified very, very early on in my career. So once I transitioned into talent acquisition, it was a really easy transition for me, because supporting those bigger government agencies, it's all about speed, right? There's a phrase in talent acquisition: time kills all deals. You got to get it in quick, right? I mean, especially with top talent, they're looking at other companies as well. They're figuring out what their career is going to look like. So you got to be quick. You got to move fast. You have to control certain conversations, which is a troublesome point for some people. They don't really have that authoritative presence. So it's difficult to maneuver between conversations, talk to hiring managers, have competing priorities. So that's a big thing for me. I think that separates me from the average recruiter. I think most recruiters are very content with, having a position come across their desks. Takes them, maybe 2 months to fill it. It's not a problem at all. It's not a big deadline, but I've always held myself to very strict deadlines. And again, that kind of goes back to that perseverance, that tenacity, and not letting small pebbles in the road trip up exactly what the journey is going to eventually look like.
That's awesome, man. You sound like you really, having 3 jobs at one point, that's a lot of resilience. You're just doing what you had to do at the time to eat, or what are, just to gain the knowledge and the experience to boost yourself up to the next level of job. So that's awesome. Love hearing that. So is there something that you find comes easy to you that others may find challenging?
Yeah, I think it's just talking to people, right? And again, that's solidified early in that door-to-door experience. I think just knocking on a door, waiting for someone random to come, and then sparking a conversation out of nothing really, helped with those public speaking skills, with being
Sure.
able to bridge about a random topic and turn it into an actual discussion point instead of letting it fizzle out. I think that's a big thing, especially again as we're talking about top talent. A lot of these software developers and field engineers and people that are working at some of these big companies, they've got dozens of recruiters calling them every day. So how do you differentiate, right? How do you make yourself stand out from the competition? And in that, it's just a conversation that feels like you're talking to someone that you know. Recruiters are mostly
Right.
very robotic. They have a set of questions that they need to ask. They ask the 7 questions, they type down the answers, and then they push it on to the hiring manager. I like to be a little bit more involved in that process to make sure that I know if I'm pushing this candidate forward, that I have a reason to do that. It's not just that they answer the questions correctly; it's that their personality matches what our culture is. They obviously have the forward thinking that we're looking for, especially in positions of leadership. And they've got great tenure in their background. I know exactly what they're looking for and why they're interested in the company. So the conversations, for me, the pre-screens, which is like the very first initial
Sure.
conversation between a recruiter and a candidate, those conversations typically last 30 to 40 minutes for me, when they could be 10, 15 minutes. But I want to go in depth. I want to know who you are and what you do and how you can support us so that I can be able to put the best foot forward for you once we get to that place.
No, that's awesome. And getting to know people and building that rapport and the relationship is so important. And I think that helps you serve them better. And as a recruiter,
Mhm.
getting out there and doing them. So if somebody, if any of our listeners anybody that's listening right now wants to get better at doing something, what's something that you have found that has helped you improve either work or personal fitness or self improvement, some things like that?
Yeah. You got to put a goal in mind. Got to put a goal in mind. You can't do anything just thinking, I want to be better and just start doing things, because you're not going to see the results, or you might, but you really won't know how to track them. You won't know the measurable results, and you'll just kind of be doing something. And the doing something is fine. That's the first step, right? You got to start, get the momentum going, get the movement going, but you have to
Mhm.
put the goal in place first to understand where you're going. Otherwise, you're just kind of there. And that's in all aspects of life, right? Personal fitness. If you think, I want to be in better shape, I want to go to the gym. You go to the gym twice a week, but you're just kind of doing random things. You get on the treadmill for a little bit, you lift some weights, you're on your phone on social media, which is fine. And a lot of people do that. I get it. But a couple months will pass and you may have lost 2 pounds, and you'll tell yourself that, this is why I don't work out. I can't lose weight. It's discipline.
Sure.
You got to stick with it. You got to put your goal in line and continue to drive forward with it. And same way in the professional world, right? I mean, I know me personally, I had been in sales, like I said, before I transitioned, and was trying to figure out what that next step looked like. I know what my goal was in terms of the money that I wanted to make. I know what type of work-life balance I wanted to have. I know what type of people that I wanted to work with and the people that I wanted to work for. And I just immediately put that in line, and I had a list of companies that I wanted to work for. And I started to
Nice.
figure that out, how I could get into these, right? So that's the first step, and then the second step, and then third. Once you get into the interviews and you really start to see this fleshed out, what's cool about it is life is so free flowing and ever changing that your goal just might change, and you need to be open to that opportunity. Don't get so rigid that there's this one thing that I need to do, and if you fail at it, it feels like your entire world crumbles. That's
Sure.
never the place that you want to be at. So again, to kind of go back to the question, the main things are to have that goal in place and continue to drive towards it, but also not to let the small slip ups throw you off of what your goal is ultimately going to be. Slip ups will always happen. Learn from it, continue to move forward.
Yeah, very good. Just you got to have a target to know where you're going to keep your
100.
direction, and then you hit on something else that I really like to. But you're going to have slip ups. There's going to be mistakes. You're going to have failures. And don't beat yourself up. It's
Mm-mm.
pick like I've said this several times, but Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times making the filament for the light bulb, but he
Yeah.
eventually did it. But he had to
Mhm.
eliminate, they weren't failures. He just eliminated um, uh, materials that didn't work. And
Yep.
there's something that
Unnecessary.
Michael Jordan shot. I don't know, thousands and thousands of free throws that he missed, but he
Yep.
kept shooting, and going for it. And we remember the ones that he hit that he won.
Absolutely.
You can't beat yourself up, because if you're keeping everything safe in a kind of a tight lane, you're probably not going to fail, or you're less likely. But if you're trying to grow and do big things, you're like you're going to have some stumbles, and you just got to get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. So good stuff.
100%.
So as you've kind of gone through your journey, what's one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your career?
Yeah, I think man, that the pandemic was probably the biggest one. And it's not that it was necessarily a challenge. It's just that our business is such a people customer centric driven business, right? And a lot of it has to happen in person. And what we saw during the pandemic is, what, actually this actually can happen remote. And we started to thrive during that remote time. And because of that time, right, every company wanted to continue their business operations in a way that that would obviously continue to yield a profit, but didn't really know how to do that in this new landscape. So recruiters became extremely valuable during the pandemic in different recruiting strategies, how we could bring people on to this remote environment, how to onboard people in that situation. So as the restrictions started to loosen, that became a huge challenge in talent acquisition, because these companies started to go through mass rounds of layoffs with thousands and thousands of recruiters being let go, especially as you talk about the bigger companies like Google, Facebook, Meta in general. I mean, there's a lot of companies that let go of thousands of people in talent acquisition just because it was easy to do. And unfortunately, that we're in a position now where a lot of these bigger companies are rehiring these same recruiters that they let go a year and a half ago, just because the budget is there again now. So I would say in terms of challenges, that's the biggest thing. There were a lot of people that I knew that I came up with in talent acquisition who have left the industry because they just couldn't find a job for 2 years straight. And there were dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of companies that were hiring, but it was incredibly competitive. Every position had hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. And as a recruiter, we know what it feels like to wade through even 50 applicants. So to have 970 applicants on a role, it's like, how do you get through that? Wow. So I think that was the biggest challenge, was continuing to maintain that drive in this career and figuring out how to regain your footing once things started to settle a little bit.
Well, that kind of goes back to what you said earlier, is getting knocked down, or you have to pivot because something was different, and things are going to happen. You think you work 30, 40 years, whatever the timeline is that you're out doing a career, there's going to be things are going to change most likely. And you got to be those that can pivot and adjust that are going to have the most success. And it sounds like you work through that. And you may have a couple of steps back through that time period, but it's getting it done in the end, finding your way through the path, and keep moving forward and keep moving up, even though you stumble some. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like things are going really well for you in your career and business. A lot of people, as they start having success, start thinking towards the future and potentially, having some type a way to create passive income to either enhance their current income or replace it at some point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm big on that side hustle, right? I mean, especially these days and age, cost of living is going up. We're all trying to figure it out, and we all want to be comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing. It's one thing to be stable, but we want to be comfortable. You want to save, you want to be able to do the things that you want to do. So I'm big on side hustles. I think it's noteworthy to try to figure out what your talent is and how you can monetize it, right? I know, me personally, there are a lot of things that I want to do, a lot of things that I feel like I am good at, but the drive to be able to lock into something and create a passive income from it has been my issue. And to kind of talk about how I've gotten through that, it's interesting because ChatGPT has actually helped me out a lot in that standpoint, and just kind of telling it exactly what my talents are, what my skill sets are, what I feel like I'm good at, and then talking to it about what can I do with this. And actually, what I'm doing right now is I'm creating an animated YouTube series that I'm hoping to actually release and have fully edited, have fully scripted out by the end of this year. So I'd say, again, as we talk about just what are the thoughts about passive income, 100% figure it out, because it is an absolute necessity these days, especially if you have other responsibilities, as many of us do. You have a mortgage or rent, you've got family to take care of. Passive income is a big thing to do, and you should try to include your family in it as well. It's always cool to make a little bit of passive income as a family, as opposed to feeling like you have to do it on your own, putting that all on your back.
And that's great. And teaching your kids, so you're just passing it on to the next generation, so they are able to start doing that at an early age too is awesome.
Absolutely.
Great. So as we're wrapping up the interview, do you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months?
The exciting plans and initiatives are probably more so just company based than anything else. Easy Fiber as a company has grown. I started 2024 with about 130 employees. Okay. Right now we're approaching 600, and we'll probably be over 700 by the end of this year. At least that's probably what the goal is for talent acquisition in general. So, I mean, the big plans are generally with the company. Again, we're opening this fourth market up in the Midwest in the coming weeks. We're already looking at a fifth and a sixth market for 2026. It is an extremely exciting time to be a part of the company. So a lot of what I have going on is continuing to flesh this out, continuing to push this forward, continuing to put my skills and expertise towards the mission of growth with this organization. Outside of that, though, life is life. People are getting married. My daughter is turning 2 early next year. I mean, there's everything is just everything in front of me. So it's just a great time to be a part of this industry, to be here in this state. I mean, it's an outstanding situation. So again, me personally, exciting times and exciting plans. I live my life in a way that every plan that I make, everything that I do is exciting for me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
So it's neat saying your daughter's about to turn 2. My oldest turns 20 today, and we're driving to College Station to take her out, her and her friends out to dinner tonight.
Congrats.
So, it's kind of shocking to me that I have a 20-year-old, but it's great. Yeah. She's a great kid. We're excited to go celebrate her birthday. So good stuff.
Awesome.
So, Darren, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some tips and insights with our listeners. If people would like to get in touch with you, find out more about what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can feel free to check me out on LinkedIn. My name is Darren Skinner on LinkedIn. Again, you find the one that works for Easy Fiber. Or feel free to email me if you would like to. Always open to emailing and giving people advice or even resume writing kind of reviews. I mean, I'm always willing to help people find their dream, right? So feel free to email me as well. On my business email, it is darren.skinner@easyfiber.com. Very easy to remember, very easy to track. But outside of that, like I said, LinkedIn and email are probably the 2 best ways.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been great getting to visit with you today. Really appreciate you joining us, and thanks for hopping on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick, and I appreciate it as well, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.